Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a very interesting show for you today. We're going to start out in the Empire State. Yes, the great state, the great city of New York, the great style. Actually, I love New York. I make fun of it, but I spent about almost 5 years living and working in New York City in the mid-'80s, and I have a strong affection for people from New York, especially people from the city that I had the most interaction with, because they were just great people. And really, New York City at that time epitomized to me everything that was great about America. To me, it was the greatest city on earth at that time. And unfortunately, it is a shadow to a certain extent of its former self. But we're going to talk about Governor Cuomo. The new census has come out. Some of the data from it is beginning to trickle out. And one of them shows basically that New York City is losing a House seat, and places like Florida are picking up seats. California is losing seats. Blue states are losing seats. So we're going to kind of talk about it centered around New York and Governor Cuomo's response, which is not to look at what they're doing or not doing in New York, but they say they're going to take it to the court. So we're going to talk about that. And then Biden continues to have issues at the border. The Biden administration, America continues to have issues at our southern border. Now it's come out that the ICE agents are releasing, not because they want to, but because they have to, criminals, actually people who are either charged with criminal activity, in some cases pretty horrendous crimes, like raping of children and that kind of thing. And about 90% of those are being released right here in the United States, not even returned or deported, but released right here. And it's directly, that Biden administration is directly to blame for this. And we'll expand upon that in just a minute. But before we go any further, I always have to talk about our sponsors. Big Daddy Unlimited is our number one sponsor. Your home for Second Amendment. I call them your Second Amendment headquarters. For all of our sponsors, look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. You'll see a show description, but you'll see links to our various sponsors and other information there from time to time. A very important thing is to not only obviously watch our video and spread them far and wide, but look at the links we have in the description of our show above the video. And Big Daddy Unlimited, you can get factory direct pricing delivered directly to your door on guns, ammunition, and over 100,000 other items, related items like tactical gear, protective gear, even swag. If it's related to the Second Amendment, you can find it at Big Daddy Unlimited. And they are your Second Amendment headquarters because they defend your Second Amendment on a daily basis. Then we have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. They are a total fulfillment center, which essentially means if you have a charity organization or you're putting on a charity event and you want to have t-shirts, that type of thing, with a patriotic theme made up for the charity of your choice, they can handle that from stem to stern, as the old salty dog here says. And check them out. Remember, JMT, the initials of our show, for 20% off. Check it out. Then we got Recoil TV. They're basically, we kind of partnered with them. They have their own YouTube channel. It's Recoil TV. Of course, we have ours as well, and you're called John Martin Talks. Spell it all the way out. Now you can look at it live there, and you can look at it later, archived on YouTube. Good morning to all you YouTubers out there and Facebookers. Good morning. How are you? But we also have our show archived on Recoil TV. Recoil TV is all about the Second Amendment, as well as they produce high quality, high production videos on the latest guns, ammunition, excuse me, or any other issues related to the Second Amendment. Got a little frog in my throat this morning. Don't worry, feeling good, mask-free in the great free state of Florida. You know, we're here in Florida. We come to you live from our hidden studios in Gainesville, Florida, so to speak. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and of course you'll hear me repeat it pretty often, that I am American by birth, but I'm Floridian, baby, by the grace of God, the free state of Florida. And that ties us right into our first article here, because a lot of the people who are leaving New York are coming to places, the free states, like Florida, North Carolina, southern states, even Texas. Let's get into this. This is a Politico story. Cuomo looking at legal options to keep 27th House seat. So they're losing a House seat. They got 27 House seats now. They're going to lose one, be down to 26, which is a big deal. And some state is going to gain. I know Florida, I think, is projected to gain 1 or 2 seats, and places like North Carolina as well. So, it's not official that the seat moves from New York to Florida, but the seats move according to the data from the census, and it's not looking too good from New York. And part of the reason is because they're taxing the rich. Cuomo admitted, hey, we taxed the rich, and they left, and they're looking at taxing them even more. Interesting. Did you see, by the way, on a side note, that Biden administration has asked for, I want to say, $80 billion to go directly to the IRS to target high-income earners. If you're making money in America, that's wrong. That's wrong. You got to be racist. You got to be something to make money in America, and it's wrong. And the Biden administration is coming after you. What do you think they'll probably do? Go somewhere else, right? Another country. The super rich can pretty much they can go into space, for God's sakes. It's coming. That reality is just around the corner. No doubt about it. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this story. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said Tuesday that the state will explore its legal options after falling 89 residents short of retaining its 27-member congressional district. So they got 27. They want to try to keep that 27th one. The delegation, according to census numbers released on Monday. Well, maybe, I'm just saying, maybe they didn't all leave in the sense of moving to Florida or somewhere. Cuomo killed up to 15,000 people, they're saying now, died in nursing homes in New York City. Now, that's a big chunk. So 89, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of big number, especially when you consider that Cuomo and his administration are directly responsible for up to 15,000 nursing home deaths. So, I don't make light of that. It's crazy, man. But the Governor Cuomo said, do I think the census was accurate to within 89 people? And he says, no. And we're looking at legal options because when you're talking about 89, that could be a minor mistake in counting. So he's looking at legal options. That's very, very interesting. Legal options on a count. A Democrat leader, a guy who could have been president maybe, or certainly was considered as a fallback position, is worried about counting. Maybe Stalin is right. Maybe old Joe Stalin was right. He knew the Democrats. He knew these socialists pretty well because he was one. And it's what's really important is not who votes, but who counts the vote. And I think he's on to something. But think about that. For a Democrat to be wanting to court challenge a vote count or in this case, a citizen count, but a count nonetheless. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but there's a wee bit of irony in there. Billy Bob's agrees with me. If you hadn't met my psychic sidekick, by the way, Billy Bob Bass here. He's got a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're going to stay in the public square. They're going to have to run us out of here, man. Run us out on the rail. And we need you. I'm like Biden. I need you. But we need you to spread this show far and wide, to make it a homework assignment for your grandchildren or your teenage kids or whatever, even your millennial kids. Make it a homework assignment to them, that kind of thing. Spread this show far and wide, because I believe the message that we're putting out here is one you won't hear anywhere else. And this country desperately, in my view, needs to hear it, which is what motivates me to come in every day and battle ignorance and apathy. And I appreciate you. But imagine that, the irony of it, a Democrat wanting to take to court something about a count. But what was it? President Trump and people who support him called everything but a child of God for mentioning something about questioning a count. We don't even say the F word here. It's gotten so bad on social media. We say mod. So, voter mod was pretty rampant, but trying to take it to court, not so much. People are here. Let me read this next part. It would not be the first time that New York, because this has been going on for a while, has raised questions about a census count. But experience suggests that the odds of finding even 89 more residents might be long. So they've challenged this before, and other states, other states have as well, but it's not been overturned very often, if at all. But the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, people are voting with their feet, so to speak, with their U-Hauls, with their automobiles. They're getting out. They're absolutely getting out of places like New York, California, Illinois, around the Chicago area, and people are wanting to be free. They want to come to places like I call the free state of Florida. American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God, man. It means more to me now than ever. And I see it on a daily basis. Literally, I run into people that are traveling here, moving here, and I tell them, welcome to the free state of Florida. Just remember, whatever you're running from, don't bring it with you. Said New York Law School senior fellow Jeff Weiss, I don't know anything about him, but made some points here. He says, New York has challenged the census before over undercounting from the 1970s through the 2000s. So this has been happening to New York for a while. And each time the Supreme Court has rebuffed the state's efforts. So they've never won a case. And I don't think they're going to win this one. Massachusetts and Utah have also challenged the appointments, and they've also had their lawsuits rejected. Well, the only thing I can say to that was at least they got their cases heard. I mean, at least the Supreme Court actually heard their cases, or even lower courts. The thing about, you hear all the time about the voter mod and we say rhymes with a squeal, that kind of thing. This idea that the Trump administration or the Republican Party or whatever layer you want, people challenging on behalf of the Trump campaign, actually had their cases dismissed by courts. It is true, but in the vast majority of them, they didn't even get heard. They never really saw the evidence. And the one that really still sticks out in my craw, so to speak, is the Texas case that was joined by, I believe, 22 other states, including my great state of Florida. And it was supposed to go before the Supreme Court because they were suing, saying they'd been disenfranchised, Texas that is, because other states had violated the Constitution in making changes to the election law. Because it's very clear in the U.S. Constitution, which is why the Democrats want to obliterate it, that states, and only state legislatures for that matter, can actually amend election laws on these federal elections. The only one. So if you remember, Texas challenged that was not done in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia and I think Wisconsin and maybe a few other states. And the Supreme Court constitutionally is supposed to take up and be literally a trial, if you will, a real court trial, so to speak. So only one of the few times that the Supreme Court is empowered to do this. And when it comes to disputes between states. But the Supreme Court would not even hear the evidence in that case. So I don't want to hear what I hear all the time, that they had their day in court and they got rejected, because it's simply not true, But at least these states had their cases heard and they got rejected. And I'll say this and I'll move on. I would not have liked it. But if they'd have heard that Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court had done their job and heard the case brought by Texas and many other states, supported by, and they'd come to a conclusion after hearing the evidence that it simply was not enough to overturn an election, I could have accepted it, grudgingly accepted it. And I believe millions of other Americans, they might not have liked it, but they could. But now there is a bad taste in our mouths, so to speak, because we don't feel like we had our day in court. And man, you think about it. If your last line of redress is the Supreme Court, and if you don't even feel like you get your day in court, you start questioning, well, why am I even in this agreement to start with? And that's why I think a lot of action is going to come down to the states, and you're going to see this. And this is, New York has every right to do this. But listen to this. Mr. Weiss said this. Let me re-describe him since I've been yapping so much. He's from the New York School senior fellow, Jeff Weiss. This is what he said. He said Monday, which is when this data first came out, was really just a prelude, a first act, and we'll be learning more about the Census Bureau's metrics. Once we had the actual data at the block level, then we could see where we were undercounted or where we had other types of problems. I translate that to say, hang on, New Yorkers, hang on, progressives. We may be able to steal this thing yet, because it's in the hands of the Biden justice system. If it goes before the Supreme Court, I got to believe they'll follow precedents and basically toss it out. But I would not put it past them. These blue states are going to try to hang on to these legislators no matter what, because they don't want them to come to free states like Florida. So we're going to be watching this very closely, and we'll expose it everywhere we can. Cuomo, for his part, blamed any possible undercount on guess who? If you had to make a guess, who do you think Cuomo blamed it on? Yeah, that's right, Donald Trump. Cuomo, for his part, blamed any possible undercount on former President Donald Trump. Well, Trump is part of the problem in New York, right? He is partially responsible for what's happening in New York because he left too. He got the heck out of New York himself. He's now a citizen of the great state of Florida, the free state of Florida. We welcome you, President Trump, to the great free state of Florida. But yeah, so Donald Trump is legitimately part of the problem because they would have only been 88 who left if Trump had stayed there. And of course, they in New York, especially the city of New York. I'm talking when I say this, understand, I got to put a caveat on this. I said earlier about my experience in New York. I'm not talking about all the people of New York. I'm talking about the yahoos you've elected to governor and mayor and everything else. Certainly when it came to the president, the powers that be in New York City made him feel so welcome, didn't they? Do you remember this picture? I think we've got it of there you go, right there. They're painting Black Lives Matter right out in front of Trump Plaza. No real authority to do this, but they did it anyway. So they wanted Trump. They even made comments about Trump. Even de Blasio talked about President Trump looking at this. So they made him feel so welcome. And New York now, the city, and I know there's a big difference between like upstate New York and the city. So I don't want to lump everybody together, but the political leaders from the governor down are pretty corrupt the way I look at it. But you remember now people in New York, I played this video the other day. This is from just this past week, right after the, I believe the Chauvin case was where the officer was found guilty of all counts with the Floyd case. This was Black Lives Matter in New York City talking to white people in this. Now I gotta tell you up front, give you a moment. If you want to tune away, it's very graphic language in this, but I think it's something you need to see. And I just want to ask before I play it, could it possibly be that this kind of nonsense is why you're losing a House seat? Check it out.
Fuck out of New York. Stay the fuck out of New York. We don't want you here. 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 We don't want your fucking money. We don't want your fucking money. We don't want your fucking taquerias. Owned by fucking white men. Owned by fucking white men. Tip 30%. Tip 30%. Tip 30%.
That's good enough. I think that 30% figure he's talking about, I'm assuming that he's talking about white people are like 30% of New York City. I don't know exactly, but he's talking about a couple of things he says in there. First of all, let me back up. Would you feel welcome if you're a white resident in New York City right now? Would you be thinking, man, this is the place for me if that kind of crap is allowed to happen? And they don't make any kind of arrests or anything. But he makes a couple of statements in there that are just idiotic. First of all, he says, we don't want your effing money. Well, he apparently hasn't been paying attention to the leadership of Black Lives Matter because they want all the money they can get. They're even flipping houses now, one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter, to get more money. They're not flipping them for social justice. They're flipping them for put in bling-a-ling, ching-a-ling in their bank account for the love of money. People will sell their own brother. There's a song like that you might get back to playing. I'm all about soul music. But then he talks about how these white people own the restaurant. It turns out that that particular restaurant was owned by Mexican people. But do you think the people feel welcome there? You know, as I say, come on down to the great state, the free state of Florida. I think I can probably speak for some others, but don't bring whatever you're running from with you. Don't bring that type of voting. But the governor went on to say, Governor Cuomo, he said, you had a lot going on. You had people talking about the census. You had a lot going on. You had people who were nervous to come forward. You had undocumented people who were nervous to come forward. I do believe the federal government had a chilling effect. So it sounds like that he's like anti-big government because the census is about as big government as you could possibly be, right? And he sounds like he's anti-big government. No, he's just anti-results. That's the thing with the Democrats, the people who you've elected to run the Democratic Party. They basically are all about results and the power, results meaning power. They don't care about America. They really don't. Now, I've told you before that I'm not talking about all rank and file Democrats. I'm talking about the people who are running the Democratic Party. Because you got to keep in mind, if you're new to the show, you need to hear this. My main political goal right now is to stop the progressive takeover of this country. That's it, period. So I don't care if you're running for governor, if you're running for president, or you're running for dog catcher. It may not be fair, but I'm going to judge you based on that standard. Is your election or your appointment going to help me with my political goal to stop the progressive takeover of America? Because the reason why New York City and the state is following suit, is falling apart and people are getting the heck out, is because the progressives have taken over the state. Now, there is hope for you, like in Congressman Lee Zeldin, I think, is running for governor. If you elect somebody like him, then you might could save your state. If not, you're going by the wayside, man. And I say that with no joy whatsoever because I told you, man, I love New York. I love New York City. I enjoyed working there. The people that I met there are literally the backbone of this nation as well. It's not just rural people that built America. People in the cities built it as well. But those people are either dead or fleeing right now. And it's amazing. But here's the thing about Cuomo. I mean, it's not like what he's been doing. He talks about the census. It's not like he's been inspiring anybody to greatness. Because remember a couple of years ago that I think he actually said this after his last re-election. I don't remember exactly, but it was close to it. When Cuomo said this right here, check it out.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
It was never that great. Did you hear that? We're not going to make America great again because it was never that great. Now, there's an inspirational speech for you. That makes you want to move to New York or stay there, right? And the thing that really pisses me off, and I just got to say it, man, the thing that really pisses me off about Cuomo saying that, of course, he has free speech, but what really irks me is the fact that love him, hate him, whatever, the Cuomos in general, their life story, his family's life story shows the greatness of America because he's a family of immigrants, right? Italian immigrants that have, built New York City, essentially. His father rose to be governor of the state. He rose to be governor of the state. His brother, love him, hate him, whatever, rose to be one of the number one pundits and highly paid personalities in the history of TV. I mean, it is what it is. His life story is a testament to the greatness of America. So for him to stand up there and say America was never that great, not only is it nonsense, it's a lie, but he besmirches his own family's accomplishment, in my opinion, and it just pisses me off. I'm sorry. Well, I guess I'm not sorry. Don't make apologies for being right. Let's move along because I could stay on that all day. The numbers released on Monday, talking about the census, showed that New York's population actually increased, but wait, you got to hear what this actually means, increased by 838,000 residents over the past decade, indicating that population growth has picked up a little over the past decade after a lull of a half century. The state's population now tops 20 million for the first time in history. But here is the catch. The state's accelerating population growth still isn't as high as the rest of the country. So places like Florida, places like North Carolina and Texas are outgrowing places like New York. But New York still population, and I don't have any scientific evidence, so algorithm, this is just a speculation. It is a pure speculation, what I'm about to say. Okay, so I don't want an algorithm who is the most powerful person in social media. You know, I'm going to get you them chocolate cherries for Christmas, I promise. But listen to this. New York, under Cuomo's leadership now, you know, all this, quote, stimulus COVID relief money that we're getting, New York is taking $2.1 billion of that money and putting it to what they call undocumented workers, to give them money, just unfettered money they don't have to be responsible for. $2.1 billion to illegal aliens. I'm going to call it like it is. You can do with it what you want. Undocumented illegal aliens are now going to get $2.1 billion of money from New York, which is coming from the federal government, which means all of us, right? Now, don't you think that that is an incentive for people to flock to New York? So my speculation is maybe it's New York's social welfare policies that have kept their state growing to the point that it's up to 20 million, but they're losing the taxpayer base because they're moving out. That's just speculation on my part. You know, of course, Biden is letting them in. Biden's policy, you know, let us in, Joe Biden says. You remember, there's even people at the border wearing Biden t-shirts saying, let us in. All right, Senator Martin, this is there were several examples of people used in this from the state level, state senator. I'm only going to quote this one, I believe. Said Senator Mario Matera, a Republican from Suffolk, said at a Tuesday news conference opposing Democratic bill to raise taxes. So here they are in the midst of all this, raising taxes in New York. We're lowering taxes in Florida, but they're actually doing it right here in my little county. They're talking about raising, we live in one of the most liberal places. You want to know where I live? Look at one of these, look at the state of Florida, the red county, blue county. And I live up in the Blue Lake in the north central part of Florida, surrounded by red. Gainesville, not my little town necessarily, but Gainesville is one of the most liberal places in the country. It's like the San Francisco of the South. So I see all this on a daily basis. I see the failures of socialism literally daily. But they're talking about raising the sales tax here. At the same time, you know, people are on unemployment everywhere. It's crazy, man. But listen to what they say here. This senator said, we're losing population here, talking about New York. We need to go the other way. My mom's in Florida. Look what happened in Florida. Maybe she's only alive because she's in Florida. Florida surpassed us, this senator said. He said, I think they're at 22 million people. We're going the opposite way. We're losing some folks. Well, as I said, our state is actually lowering taxes. But I don't believe that that's the main reason people are coming here is because of taxation. It is a factor. Businesses are relocating. It's certainly a factor. But I think there are other reasons. And I think the biggest reason they're coming to places like Florida is like this symbol here says, you know, welcome to the Gunshine State. We are the free state of Florida. You can actually come to Florida and become a citizen of Florida. Like I say, I'm an American by birth, a citizen of Florida by the grace of God, that, you know, you can be free here. You can actually open a business. I mean, we've passed laws to lock people up for looting your business, blocking the streets, that kind of thing. You can stand your ground here. You don't have to, you know, worry about defending yourself. You can defend yourself legally here. There are multiple reasons why people are coming to places like Florida beyond just the weather and taxes, which are great, period. But people are standing up. Our governor, for instance, Mr. Ron DeSantis, who you might need to take it, let's face it when it comes to Ron DeSantis compared to like Governor Cuomo. My governor, I'll put his cojones up against yours anytime. Our governor has the ability to stand up, challenge the lying media and the progressive leftists. Cuomo's trying to figure a way to take advantage of the fact that the progressive leftists, and of course, your governor, Cuomo, I have to give him credit on one thing. He is pretty friendly. He's pretty friendly, and it's about to get him in some trouble, man. Some trouble. My governor has put up signs like this right here. Instead of offering $2.1 billion for illegal aliens, he put up signs by executive order at every major entrance to Florida and really roads across the state saying that we have E-Verify here, which basically means if you're coming here illegally, you're not going to get a job in Florida. That's what that is trying to say. So think of which governor is sending the message to illegal aliens. Cuomo is going to give you $2.1 billion. Our governor says, you're not going to get a job here. And as I say, bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, on this, whatever you're running from, when you leave somewhere like New York or Illinois and Chicago up there and California, whatever you're running from, leave it where you came from. The free states, man. This is something, and I hadn't mentioned this in a long time, but everybody talks about the Underground Railroad, right? The Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, rightfully so. And it's interesting that it went north, right? Did you know that there was actually a Southern Underground Railroad? It gets very little attention, but there were black slaves in the South that fled into Florida because Florida was a slave state, but you got to keep in mind at that time, Florida was really a wilderness. So a lot of them fled down, actually joined up with Seminole Indians, tribe, intermarried and everything else, which is what led to the Second Seminole War, by the way, because when the Seminoles were going to be relocated, I believe, out to Arkansas, one of the things was they said they could not bring their black wives, husbands, and that kind of things with them, and that started the Second Seminole War. But they also went all the way down to the free or slaves, escaping slaves, went to the Caribbean. So there was a Southern Underground Railroad. But isn't it ironic that the very states that fought for freedom to end slavery are the places that are enslaving people in other ways, through poverty, through welfare state that basically is another type of slavery because you get dependent. The Democrats want you dependent upon government. Now, understand this. I am not saying that that is the same thing as actual slavery, but dependency on the federal government is a form of locking you in place, and that is what the Democratic Party is all about. So it's kind of ironic to me that everybody was fleeing to get free in the blue states up north, and now they're fleeing to the southern states for freedom. People want to be free, period. And they don't want big government. At least some of us don't. And that's why they're coming to the free state of Florida. As I say, just don't bring your problems with you. Check my time. I still got plenty of time. I got to get into this in a way it's connected. This is a Breitbart story. Joe Biden, sanctuary country. Now, the people don't, this kind of went by the wayside. One of Biden's executive orders was entitled something to the effect of sanctuary country, and it affects federal agents' abilities to arrest people and detain them and deport them that have committed crimes. So this is Joe Biden's sanctuary country orders freeing thousands of criminal illegal aliens into U.S. communities. Now, have you seen this meme? I posted it up on one of my sites yesterday. I think it's pretty funny, who you won't see at the border. You won't see Kamala and Joe Biden at the border at all. Criminal illegal aliens are being released into Texas neighborhoods as a result of President Joe Biden's sanctuary country orders that prevent immigration. Did you even know he had signed that? Because that's not widely known, I don't think. Orders that prevent immigration and customs enforcement, otherwise known as ICE agents, from detaining and deporting most criminal illegal aliens in the United States. Sanctuary country. Sanctuary country. Now, I guess we should not be surprised at this. Joe Biden is going to be speaking tonight, and we'll cover it for you to a joint session of Congress. More about that in just a moment. But you remember this, I've played it before, but if I played it, it needs to be played again. Joe Biden asked himself probably the toughest question that he's been asked during the campaign and since he's been president. Check it. And I got the answer to it, by the way. Check it out.
You know me. You know my heart. You know my story, my family story. Ask yourself, do I look like a radical socialist with a soft spot for rioters?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yes. Yes, you do. Do you look like a radical socialist with a soft spot for rioters? Yes, Joe, that is exactly what you look like. I mean, it's just no question about it. So tonight, he's got this joint session of Congress. Do you think he's going to talk about the border issue at all? If he does, it won't be a crisis, right? He won't be talking about how he's releasing criminals in. I mean, it's really interesting if he even addresses that tonight. We see him. But remember to set your VCRs. You say VCRs? Yeah, Joe Biden tells you what you need to do in order to, straighten out America and the children and everything else. So when I say VCRs, I'm just following the basically the logic, if you will, of Joe Biden. You remember this from the 2020 debates? And keep in mind, this dude is now occupying the White House. Check it out.
We have make sure that every single child does in fact have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds go to school, not daycare, school. We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their children. It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio, make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone, make sure the kids hear words.
Make sure the kids have the record player on tonight. I mean, so break out your VCRs. I don't know. You could even use your beta, I guess, or whatever. I mean, the fact that dude who, when you go back and look at the highlights or the lowlights of Joe Biden during the 2020 race, how in the world can you look at that and believe that he actually is president of the United States? Of course, he's not. He's not the president of the United States. The guy we're going to see tonight is not the president of the United States. Now, I'm not, before you get crazy on me, algorithm, I'm not talking about he didn't get more ballots than Donald Trump. I'm not talking about voter mod or stopping the squeal. I'm saying that the dude is not mentally capable. Whether he was elected or not is a different debate. But that dude is not mentally capable. I've seen no signs that he is mentally capable of being president of the United States. Did you see just yesterday, he was doing a little bit of a press conference about the latest COVID stuff on the White House lawn. And he walked out there wearing a mask. He's outside. He's had the vaccine. All of those reporters are tested and everything. So they either have had vaccines or COVID. I don't know what their protocol is now. And he was asked a series of questions. Then they started, when the press conference was basically over, they started doing what they normally do, shout a few questions at him. He answered one or two. And then he said, I can't answer anymore because it'll get me in trouble. Can you, President Trump would do what any political handler would tell you is a nightmare. He would answer the shouting line questions right up till the point he got on Marine One to leave. I mean, Donald Trump answered every dadgum question. Joe Biden would not only literally refuse to answer questions like packing the court while he was running for office, but even now as president makes a statement, I can't answer that because if I do, I'll get in trouble. And you probably the first time you heard it might have been like here on something like Tucker Carlson, because you're not going to hear it on CNN. I guarantee you that, which is why you got to share our show far and wide. But Billy Bass tells me that we know, he said, he just psychically told me, he said, we know exactly what's going to happen with the speech tonight. Of course, the media, Joe Biden could literally fall over going up the steps, which I'm not wishing that on him. But remember, he fell on Air Force One, and the White House put out a statement that, it was because the wind blew him over. Well, I don't know about the neighborhood you grew up in, but that don't give me any confidence at all, because in my neighborhood, we'd look at somebody and say, boy, where you coming from, man? A puff of wind would blow your behind over. So when they said that Biden got blown over by the wind, I don't know about you, but it didn't instill and inspire confidence in me. But Billy Bob tells me we know how this is going to end. Now, CNN's not going to report it this way. But Joe Biden, whether it's tonight, there is only one direction his presidency can go, and it is this right here. I think you get the point. Joe Biden is a train wreck. He's a train wreck, man. And I started to say this, that's going to happen. It's happening as we speak. I haven't talked about this story, and it just kind of popped in my head. What about, and we're just going to talk about it briefly, what about the John Kerry story, where he has supposedly passed secrets to Iran? Now, how in the world does John Kerry continue to get appointments and even got the nomination and became a whisper away from being president? John Kerry has a history of undermining this country. You could make the case that John Kerry has been treasonous his entire public life. Remember, he threw the people under the bus, our Vietnam veterans and our soldiers that were still in the field at the time, by the way, under the bus all the time, getting phony medals for stuff that he didn't even do. You know, and this guy has repeatedly undermined this nation from day one of his public persona. Yet Biden appointed him to one of his highest people. You know, it just, I don't know. Are you happy with that? Even if you don't like Donald Trump, can you really respect Biden putting somebody like John Kerry up there? How does he keep getting a job? Check my time, just about out of time. We're going to keep moving. In February, Biden's department, back to this idea, in case you get lost, sometime I get lost in my rambling too, but this is a story about how Biden's sanctuary country orders are preventing ICE from not only arresting people, but having to let criminals go into your communities. In February, Biden's Department of Homeland Security issued orders that prevent ICE agents from arresting and deporting illegal aliens, in other words, doing their job, unless they are terrorists, known gang members, which are coming across unfettered, or have been recently convicted of aggravated felony. An analysis of the orders revealed that they are likely to prevent about 9 in 10 from being deported. 9 in 10. Last time I checked, that's 90% of them being let go. And they're not only not being held, they're being let go into our country without any real tracking whatsoever. No ankle bracelets or anything. An investigative report by Fox 29's Yami Virgin reveals that in San Antonio, Texas, criminal illegal aliens are being released into neighborhoods as ICE agents are unable to take them into custody. Well, why not take them to Delaware? Maybe they should just take them to Delaware. We showed this the other day. This is Biden's home in Delaware. There seems like enough room there to pack some people in. When you look at how Biden and his bunch have packed people in to the detention facilities, they could probably put most of them right there in Delaware. I don't wish Delaware any ill, but you gave us Joe Biden for 47 years, so you deserve a little bit of, Criminal illegal aliens in the custody of U.S. Marshal Service are also being released as a result of the order, and not to mention what's happening in our sanctuary cities. So these criminal illegal aliens are being released everywhere. Previous reports showed that, listen to this is what these people are being charged with. Previous reports showed that illegal aliens convicted of child sexual assaults, Carrie loved the children, indecency with a child, drunk driving, which is a crime, by the way, Joe Biden. There are literally hundreds of people in this nation, and I interviewed a great friend of mine, Sabine Durden, man. Howdy, Sabine. I hope you're watching the show. I know she does from time to time. I have to get you back on. Her son was killed by an illegal alien drunk driver that had been deported like 5 times. Killed her son, who was worked in law enforcement and everything. My God, man, can you imagine having to deal with that? One crime that can absolutely be prevented is any crime committed by an illegal alien, because they should not be here in the first place. But indecency with child, drunk driving, and drug crimes were released from Texas state prisons as a result of these orders. They're literally taking people out of prisons as a result of Biden's orders. It's just crazy. The release of criminal aliens is not only occurring in Texas. You think? Big surprise there, right? In a lawsuit filed against the Biden administration, Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody, a friend of mine, I've met her many times, revealed that illegal aliens convicted of burglary, cocaine trafficking, grand theft auto, heroin trafficking, credit card fraud, and money laundering are being released from state prisons due to the orders. So they're releasing them right here in Florida. It's absolutely crazy, ladies and gentlemen. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have got to fight this. We have got to stand up and fight this. We've got to fight at every level. We got to do like Winston Churchill said, we got to fight them on the beaches, in the hills, in the farm. We have to fight this. We can't let these politicians fight it because they're not. Even the Republicans aren't really fighting this. But we Americans have to fight this. And I'm talking about people of all races, creeds, or colors. I don't care where you're from. If you're an American citizen, your country is being overwhelmed. And remember, I'm going to close the show with this. This is one of my, and I'm just showing 1 minute clip. You ought to watch the whole 10 minutes. This is Maximo Alvarez, a Cuban refugee here that is an American citizen, has made a life here in Florida. I'm so glad that he's here. So I'm not opposed to immigration. I'm not. I'm opposed to illegal immigration. But listen to the tail end of his speech at the Republican National Convention, and he tells you basically why we got to stand no matter what, because, well, I'll let him tell you. Check it out.
Because I choose America. I choose freedom. I still hear my dad. There is no other place to go. Thank you. And may the good Lord bless America.
Absolutely, Maximo. He's a hero of mine. Man, I really would like to get him on the show. Maybe we can sometime. But there's no place else to go. Where are we going to go? We're going to go to Canada. I got a friend of mine always chiming in from Canada. Good morning. You know who you are. Thank you for your support. Where are we going to go? We're going to go to Canada. First of all, they might not take us. Second of all, they got their own issues. Where are we going to go? If America falls, where's anybody going to go? We are that beacon of freedom. We are that shining light on the hill. There is a reason why people are trying to come here. I don't blame them at all. I understand why you're trying to come here. And it is not like Kamala Harris. What a joke. She said people are coming here now because of LGBTQ rights and what she called Afro culture or something. I don't know. It's crazy. People are coming here because they're yearning to be free. I get it. But we got to stand up for this nation, because if we fall, there is no place else to go. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. You don't have to watch Biden tonight unless you want to, because I'll watch it as a public service and bring it to you tomorrow morning. Let's pray for this nation, because she deserves it and needs it now more than ever. As I say, I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. And above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.